This is the Realme GT6T disassembly. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and click on notification bell so you'll be notified once I upload a new video. Also, if you need any tools, there are links in the description. We'll start off by removing the SIM tray. Looking at that, we can see a red rubber gasket around the opening. Now heat needs to be applied to the back plate using either a hairdryer or a heat gun to loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then a pry tool can be used to pry the back plate off. I prefer to use a hairdryer since there's less of a chance of damaging any of the components inside by overheating them. Here's a look at the plastic back cover. The camera lens covers can be replaced by applying heat and prying them off, so you don't need to take apart the phone to replace those. Now there are 18 Phillips screws which need to be removed. So looking at the tall plastic cover, we see some antenna flex cables located here and here, as well as the NFC antenna, the dual LED flash flex cable, as well as the ambient light sensor on the back. On the other side, we see a large area of graphite film to help transfer heat. The battery cable can now be disconnected, followed by the rest of the cables. As for the coaxial cable, that can be disconnected by just popping it off. There's a single Phillips screw that's holding down the main board. Taking a look at the main board, we see the 50 megapixel primary camera, as well as the 8 megapixel ultra wide. The main camera is the only one with OIS or optical image stabilization. The camera connectors can be disconnected by just popping them off. There's a secondary microphone underneath this covered shield, some copper tape over these shields to help transfer heat, and rubber gaskets around the connectors. Taking a look at the other side, we can see the 32 megapixel front facing camera, the infrared or IR blaster located next to that, as well as more graphite film and copper tape on the back shield, and thermal paste to help transfer heat. Once the graphite film has been peeled back, we can see some thermal pads on these chips, as well as the ROM or storage, and some thermal paste on top of the RAM, which is seated on top of the processor. Here's a better look with the thermal paste and thermal pad removed. To remove the battery, there's a pull pouch to help you pry it off. This is the 5500 mAh dual cell battery, with each cell consisting of 2750 mAh. Again, on this phone, just like the OnePlus Nord CE4, I noticed they forgot to put a K for PBK. This is the bottom speaker assembly. There's a mesh filter and rubber gasket over the opening. And here's the speaker itself. The screen cable is located on the bottom right, which is connected to the subboard. So if you needed to replace the screen, you'd have to remove the back cover, the screws on the bottom speaker assembly, and remove the speaker assembly itself. You'd then disconnect the screen cable and the flex cables on the subboard, and then you'd proceed to remove the subboard itself, giving you access to the screen cable and the rubber gasket underneath, at which point you'd remove the rubber gasket, heat up the front of the phone where the screen is to loosen up the adhesive underneath, pry the old screen off, apply new adhesive, reapply the new screen, making sure you run the flex cable back through the opening in the mid-frame, and reassemble the phone. Looking at the subboard, we see rubber gaskets around the connectors, as well as the primary microphone located underneath the shield. The SIM reader is located on the other side. Once the battery adhesive pouch has been peeled back, we can see the flex cable for the charger port, as well as this flex cable which connects the main board to the subboard. Here's a better look at the charger port. There's also a red rubber gasket around the charger port. Once those flex cables have been peeled back, we see the massive copper vapor chamber which runs underneath the battery, as well as the motherboard and cameras. The X-axis linear motor or vibrator motor is located here, which is held on with some adhesive, and the same goes for the fingerprint scanner located next to that. Those can be replaced by applying heat and prying them off. For anyone worried about accidentally inserting the SIM ejector tool in the wrong hole and puncturing either the filter or the microphone, on this phone you don't need to worry, since both the filters and microphones are seated above the holes, so they won't be damaged. The flex cable for the volume keys and power button is located on this side. To replace that, just gently peel off the flex cable and pull out this plastic bracket from inside of the frame. Once the plastic bracket has been lifted up and removed from the frame, you'd also be able to pull out the volume and power button. The proximity sensor board is located on the top, and next to that is the earpiece speaker, which is also held down with some adhesive. For the repairability score on this phone, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Now it's time to put it back together. Once everything's put back together, apply new adhesive and reapply the back plate. Flip over the phone, power it on, and you're done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.